Hi everyone, I am Emanuele from Italy, but you know me better as Evil Dead Italia. And tonight we are going to visit, virtually obviously, the cabin website, the cabin locations from Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. We have a great guest that I'm going to present you soon. His name is Rob McLaine, but you know him better for his very cool website, BookOfTheDead.ws. It's one website with all the information you need about the history of the franchise of Evil Dead. But he didn't not only do this, founded this website. He even the owner of EvilDeadChainsaw.com. That is a project in which he realized some chainsaw replica. We will talk about this in but in a more deeper way later, and even of Super 8 Short. Super 8 Short is a project in which substantially Rob contacted some guys from Michigan that worked with Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell in the early days, and he created a sort of collection of short movies they realized in those times. However, without any further ado, I'm going to present you Rob. Hello, Rob. How are you?
Hello, I'm okay, thank you.
Okay, so we are going to, as I said, we are going to explore with you the cabin location. But before, I would like to, let's say, present you a little bit more in order to make the audience know you better. Because I mean, you deserve, you did a lot. And you are still doing a lot for the Evil Dead community, and you deserve
hmm
recognition, in my opinion. So I would like to showcase something of yours creation. So um, first of all, talking about this most notorious project of yours, I'm going to share it. This is your famous website, BookOfTheDead.ws.
hmm
And when did you founded it? I mean, how old is it? If you remind it.
it was 2009, October 31st, 2009 was when it went live.
Okay, 2009. So substantially 3 years before I started collecting stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
it's more than
uh,
10 years. I mean, it's a long
yeah,
shot. A long shot. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't get updated as much now as it did back then, but because I'm very busy with other projects, but I will come back to it probably before the end of the year. I've got a lot of things to add to it, but at the moment I'm stored under with other projects. Um, but yeah, I started it in 2009. I started it after the first time I started Evil Dead Chainsaws. I kind of closed Evil Dead Chainsaws, got a bit bored, and thought I could try and make an Evil Dead website. It started out as withinthewoods.co.uk, which was a British website, and that was already existing. And I got in contact with a guy and said, could I design bits for your website? And we started working together. And then I thought maybe I could go in a different direction and do my own website instead, which is how the website started. So it actually started out as withinthewoods.co.uk, and then moved on to Book of the Dead and got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Cool. And let's say, so the other website, as you said, is evildeadchainsaw.com.
hmm
That is, let's say, is substantially, it was a sort of store, right? You built on demand a lot of chainsaw, and you start building chainsaw in which year? The 2009 too, or even before?
No, that was okay. So 2006. I I was quite into special effects in between when I left college in 2001 and the mid 2000s. I was quite into special effects, and I would make things like bullet hits and fake hammers and fake knives, but I would make it and then not do anything with it. So I'd spend 100, £200 making something, and then it would just kind of get forgotten about because I get interested in the next thing. And someone said, well, you're just kind of wasting your money here. Why not do something that you could sell? And I originally started out looking at Freddy Krueger gloves. because I knew Anders Ericsson, who was in Denmark at the time. He now lives in America. He could make them, and I didn't think they were that hard to make. But then I looked, and there's 3, 4, 5 other people who also made them, and there's more now. And I thought, well, I could do the chainsaws instead. There was one guy making chainsaws, I think he was in California, but he was making them from scratch each time. So he bought a Homelight XL and made each chainsaw, which is a lot of work. And I looked at doing that, but because I'm in the UK, the cost of shipping a chainsaw to the UK might be more than the cost of the chainsaw itself. It might be like $150. So I thought the only way I could do it really is to make molds. I can't make a business out of buying chainsaws from America and shipping them, because every chainsaw would be $300 before I'd even done anything to it, which would be just stupidly expensive. So I bought one, made molds of each, modified each part, made molds of each part, so I could then reproduce them in resin. And then there was extra bits that go on the top, like the blades and what have you, which did have to be made from scratch each time. But in making molds, I was able to start a lot further along than someone that was starting with a Homelight XL and having to take it apart, because I was able to build bits into the molds. So yes, that's kind of how it started. It took me about a year-ish to go from taking apart the Homelight XL I had to something I thought I could reasonably sell to people as a prop. Yeah, so that's basically how it started.
And you even realized some chainsaw for the TV show, right?
Yes. So in 2000 so when I was starting Evil Dead Chainsaws, or maybe just after I started, I got in contact with Evil Dead the musical, because that was just starting possibly on Broadway. So I contacted them. They were using a chainsaw in their promo pictures, which was yellow, and it was not the right mold chainsaw, but they just obviously cobbled together what they could. So I contacted them, and they said they didn't need any chainsaws because they already had their yellow chainsaw, and they were happy enough with that. But they would contact me when they started again, wherever that was, and they did. So I did chainsaws for, I think it was some of the Broadway run, Toronto, and then in abroad in Asia, I think somewhere, maybe Japan, off the top of my head. And then about 2009, I got fairly bored with doing chainsaws, because once you've figured out how things are put together and how it's made, you're basically just doing the same thing again and again and again. And up to a point, there's no creativity to it, because when you do something 20, 30, 40 times, you're just repeating the same motions. And whether I was charging $100 or $500, it sort of lost its interest. So 2009, I stopped making chainsaws and moved on to other things. That was when I started Book of the Dead.
Yeah.
And then I sorry,
I am one of your lucky customers, because I got one of your chainsaw, and yes, I have one of these chainsaw, and I held it with honor. I'm going to soon to have some place to expose it, to put it in a frame or something like that, because for now my flat is too small. I'm working on renewing it, and soon the chainsaw you realize for me will have a spot in my collection to be seen from everyone. Nowadays is hidden in a closet, and but I love it.
Yeah. So I Evil Dead Chainsaws. So I stopped in 2009, started Book of the Dead, and then 2012 I decided to start it again. But by that point, I'd gotten rid of all my molds. So after I'd stopped Evil Dead Chainsaws in 2009, I sold off most of my equipment, apart from like little hand tools and things. I trashed all my molds. So in 2013, I had to start from scratch, completely from scratch. But that allowed me to work out a lot of bugs that I'd had with the first round of chainsaws. Because when I'd first contacted Evil Dead the musical, the chainsaws I made were really made to sit on someone's shelf. They weren't meant to be um, thrown around. I never expected them to be like a stunt chainsaw. That's not what they were made for, because you had a plastic shell connected to bits of metal on the inside. And if you whack that, the plastic is going to break. So the first chainsaws I sent to Evil Dead the Musical, the first one, I'd spent ages making these because I really wanted to make them good because, it was a big thing at the time, Evil Dead the Musical. And I got an email to say, they've smashed. We've took them, I dropped it and it broke. I thought, well, you dropped it, of course it broke. But I hadn't quite realized that being in a theatre setting, they'd drop things, they'd pick them up, things would be chucked around, things would be put on top of it, because they don't really care. It's just a bit of a prop. To me, it's something really important. To them, it's just a prop in among another 300 props that they've got to move from one theatre to the next to the next. So I had to really modify my molds, make them a lot thicker to send them the next chainsaws, the replacement chainsaws. So that was modifications I'd made pretty much just after I'd made my molds. I had to chop bits out of the mold to make the insides thicker, so it wouldn't they would be stronger. So, and also there was various other bits like I'd make a modification, and then for every other chainsaw I made, I'd have to make that extra modification. And then there was 2 modifications and 3 and 4 and 5. By the end, I had a whole queue of modifications to make before I could make each chainsaw, and there's that sort of thing I could build in to the new molds. So I was contacted. So I think one of the first chainsaws I made in 2013 was one of the ones you got. I think it was a cabin chainsaw.
Yeah, cabin chainsaw.
Yeah. So you got one of the first 3, and then so I'd made probably 15 or so, and then I was contacted by Ash vs Evil Dead in New Zealand about someone to make the chainsaws. Now, normally a TV show wouldn't do this. They would have a props department, and getting an amateur to make them props is not usually something they do unless it's very specialized. So I made them these chainsaws. I made 4 unpainted Army of Darkness chainsaws and 2 working Army of Darkness chainsaws, both unpainted. So when they ordered the chainsaws, they ordered my Army of Darkness model, not realizing that they didn't have the rights to Army of Darkness. So they got these chainsaws and realized we can't just paint them and put them in the show because that would give them copyright problems. So they had to modify them, would put tape on the handle and other bits and pieces in order to sort of fudge past the fact that they hadn't got the copyright. So the chainsaws I sent them and the chainsaws you see on the first series are a bit different. They also, because they'd made modifications, they then took my chainsaws apart, made new molds, so then they could turn out rubber ones, they could turn out plastic ones, different versions, stunt versions with blood in and what have you. So really what you see on screen, I think there's only some of them are mine, and most of them are theirs when they're taken apart, modified them, put them back together again, molded them. So I did supply chainsaws to Ash vs Evil Dead, but it's sort of not quite, not quite there. It's most of the time it's not my chainsaws you see on screen.
Yeah,
but it's nice to be able to contribute anyway.
Absolutely. It's an honor, I suppose, for you. And so I would like to show to everyone a project in which that Rob realized that showcased in a couple of minutes all of his passion and all of his skill in realizing stuff. And I think that is the Book of the Dead trailer, because in 2015, 2016, I don't remember the year, you did 2016, yeah, you did an Indiegogo campaign to try to get funds. Sadly, this didn't you didn't achieve your goal, but the trailer
not even close.
You were okay.
Not even close.
It was a shame because I think it's a very, very cool project, and it deserved all the attention from the community. I suppose that if you are still in the possibility to do this, maybe you can retry later in some years, because people still love the franchise, and this is a very cool piece of let's say of I mean, it's not a fun work. I mean, yes, it's a fun work, but it's very very it's crafted carefully with a lot of attention. However, without any further ado, I'm going to show the video, because I think it's more easy to understand for the people who are going to see this what I'm talking about. So here it is. Okay, it's going to start now. Wow, I love this. I love this one. We have someone watching the stream. I suppose it's Mike. Hi, Manuel and Rob. Hope you are both good. Yes, we are. Oops, just a moment. Okay. And yeah, I really love your trailer, and I think yes, this deserves to be continued in some way one day. And how much it took to you to realize this specific piece of movie?
The trailer, probably not very much, maybe 100 to 200. It was basically taking props I already had and dressing them in with a table and dust and what have you. So it wasn't a huge amount of work. It was filmed in an area about 10 foot by 6 or 7 foot, because that was what I had in my flat at the time. I don't live in that same flat anymore. So I had to clear a space, and that entire thing was filmed in a very small space. But yeah, it was just assembling a thing and then trying to take a decent shot of it. You know, like the cellar table, close enough that you don't see the edges, you don't see the sofa in the background, you don't see my TV. You could just see what I'd done and nothing more. Because if you'd zoomed out, you would have just seen my flat. So it was done in a very, very small space. So there was a couple of types of trailer. That was the first one. That's my favorite. And there was a second one and a third final one. And they all used variations on that, building a bit of the set. Like in the third trailer, there's a wall and then there's a door being opened. And I just made the middle bit of the door and a little bit of the wall, because that's all you saw and that's all I had room for. And yeah, so originally I had planned, I think it was £2,000, it's about $2,200, and I'd planned to make most of the cellar. and put the film mostly in the cellar, and then do a similar thing for the rest of the shots, like a little shot of floorboards or a little shot of a door, but most of the thing would take place in a cellar. But I couldn't build that cellar in my house, in my flat, because there was nowhere near a room. And I did. I worked in Shepperton Studios at the time, and I did ask them, hoping they would be nice about it, to see if they could just lend me a workshop space. And it wouldn't need to be a big workshop space, maybe 20 feet square, something like that. And they quoted me something ridiculous at £1,000 a week to do it. So in the end, it never got done. I only managed to raise, I think it was £342 of the £2,000 that I thought they needed to make it, and that would have been even more if I'd paid £1,000 a week for the stage or for the workshop area. So I thought, well, I can't make it for £342. I had to refund each person, and then just kind of go ahead on my own. And I made a second or the third trailer, but they were much of the same thing, just little bits of the set that I could make and fit in my flat, and that was as far as it went.
Okay, that's cool. However, it's a shame it didn't come out, in my opinion. So let's talk about the core of this live stream. We are going to talk about Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 location, because one thing Rob did in the past 10 years circa, it was 2012, if I'm not wrong. He visited the cabin, both movie cabins site location, and he wrote it all. He filmed a lot of stuff, and so what we are going to do now is, first of all, showing the pages of his site in which there is a sort of diary, and then go with the videos and show the videos. Let's say virtually visiting these wicked places, let's say. Okay, so first of all, Rob, what is your first the first word that come in your mind when you think back about this travel? I mean, it was hard, it was funny, it was
I knew I wanted to go and film it, so it was very business-like. I knew it wasn't have a party or visit people. It was, I had an itinerary. I knew I wanted to be at the Evil Dead site. You know, the morning of the first day, I had to go and visit this place, which was 20 miles away on this day. It was going to take, I had an itinerary of exactly where I was going to go, because I knew I only had 5 days. So I had to very closely keep to my timetable, because I had certain people I had to meet and hotels I was booked into. So in about probably early 2012, I knew I wanted to go. And for the Book of the Dead website there, I had interviewed Randy Bennett. Now that interview is not on the website, but I did an interview with Randy Bennett. And because he was just someone I was in contact with at the time, I asked him if he knew anyone who owned the Evil Dead 2 cabin site. And one of the people he knew was a university lecturer. She was the daughter of the former owner of the cabin site. So the people that owned the cabin site, Evil Dead 2 cabin site, back in the 80s, their daughter was a university lecturer who Randy Bennett knew. So I got in contact with her, and the idea was that me, Randy Bennett, and her would go and visit the cabin site. Randy Bennett got involved in a project he couldn't go, so in the end it was just me and her that went to the Evil Dead 2 cabin locations. But first I flew into Knoxville Airport on the evening and went straight to the hotel. And then the morning of the first day, I went to the Evil Dead 1 cabin site. Because I know that other people have got caught and escorted off the property. And where you're parking there, you drive up a country road. And if you're parked there, you're not blocking traffic, but it's very obvious that someone's there, because there's a house opposite, but there's nothing really else there. So unless you're visiting the house opposite, it's very obvious that someone's going into the cabin site, because you can see there's a car nearly blocking the road and you're across the way. So I decided to park quite a way down this road where it would be far less obvious and walk up to the cabin site. So it was about a half-hour walk. It was much further than I thought it would be. But as I walked further and further, I thought, well, it's just going to be around this next corner. It's just going to be around this next corner. And finally, I got there. I walked onto the cabin site, and that's when I did my filming. So I thought the first time I go, I'll pick up all the bits that I want, all the bricks, all the bits of tin roof and what have you, put them in my rucksack, and then walk back down to the car, and then I would know that they're safe in the car. Then I could drive back up and do the rest of my filming. And I thought, well, if I got caught and thrown off the second time I'm there, that's okay. I've already got the stuff in my car. Not realizing that I had about 30 kilos of rocks and roof in my backpack, and I had to walk half an hour all the way back to the car, which, as I say, took about half an hour. But I got back to the car, drove up, and then did the rest of my filming. Then I went to the bridge there was two roads that you see where the car's driving at the start of the film. I did some filming there. Again, they're fairly deserted. Then I went to where the bridge was. You can only see, I think, one or two of the bridge struts, and the rest of it's gone. So there's a road on one side, there's a road on the other side, but there's no bridge. So I went there, clambering around on rocks and did filming. And that was the first day. I went back to the hotel. The next morning, I went back to the cabin site to do some more filming, and then took my hire car and drove across the Smoky Mountains to a hotel in the center of North Carolina. Wadesboro.
Okay. Wait a moment. We are going to show something. So people is listening is going to have some images in front of their face. So let's say, first of all, as I said, there is the war report from Rob. Oh, sorry. There is the war report from Rob. I'm not able to do nothing today. Okay, there is the war report from Rob in this specific page. I'm going to share on the comments. Here you can see the whole travel of Rob with all the details, and day by day, let's say a sort of vlog related to everyday, let's say, how we call it, is location odyssey. Okay, and there is all the details here, and you can go in this page and watching all the videos and reading even all the details he put here. I'm going to share the link. So Evil Dead is the link. Okay, so you can go here and visit this page. However, we are going obviously to share the videos directly here. So you were talking about, for example, so your first visit was to the cabin site, if I understood correctly, right?
The Evil Dead 1 cabin site, yeah.
Yes. So we are going to share a little bit of this video you shared with me, and it is on this site. Here it is. Just a moment. Okay. Okay, here it is. So this is the road you were talking about, the place in which you parked the car.
Yeah, so the car in this shot is just parked behind me, and if you park on this road, it's very obvious to anyone driving past. And there's houses far on where you can see, and there's houses back behind me, but there's nothing in the middle bit. So you get people driving along that road to the houses at either end, and it becomes very obvious if there's a car parked there as to what people are doing, because everyone locally knows what that is. There's like a fence across the opening, but it's quite obvious, there's a trail just beyond it.
Cool. So I'm going a little bit over in the video. So here you are walking in the woods.
Yeah.
Do you know if Oh, sorry. Do you know if these are the same woods we can see in the movies, or I
Yes.
mean,
So if you just so where the car sort of rounds the corner and starts going down the driveway, the car would have started just down that bank there and gone into the down this pathway there. And the pathway down to where the cabin is pretty much exactly as you would see it on the film, except it's a lot more overgrown here. There's trees that have fallen over, um, but you can just walk down to the cabin site. It's a lot smaller than I thought it would be, because in the film you imagine it to be quite big, and when you pace out, when you think, well, this is where the cabin was, you realize the cabin really wasn't that big, even though in the film it looks pretty big. But this is driving down where you would, where the car would have driven down, and also where Ellen would be running back up the driveway when she's running away from the force.
um, was it autumn or not? I mean, it was a
Yeah,
sun.
so I went on. It was December.
Oh
It
my
was
god!
early December, and I remember checking the forecast repeatedly, because if it snowed, which it could well have done, I would have been fairly screwed in terms of filming anything, because everything would be covered in snow. So I remember even in the spring looking at the long-term weather forecasts and thinking, well, should I go earlier? Should I go later? I can't go around Thanksgiving because that'll be more expensive and they'll be very busy. Maybe a bit later, but not close to Christmas. Uh, but I don't want to go in January and February because it's more likely to be snowing. So I went back and forth about what day to go. And luckily, it was fairly warm. I'm doing this in just a t-shirt here because it was quite warm. But it could just easily been raining or snowing. So it worked quite well for me.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So if I go ahead a little bit, if I remember correctly, it's minute 10, or no, even before here. So you reach the cabin site, and sadly, this is what remained there. Uh, I mean, not everyone know the story, but you are one of the most informed person here. I mean, you even talked to the current owner of the site, so you can tell something about the sad story of the first cabin site, and why just there are just these stones, this chimney stone here.
Okay. So the person that owns the cabin site today, on that road you saw at the very beginning, there's a house probably 200 yards up on the hill, and it's not the person that lives directly opposite and down a bit. It's the house off on the field, and that's an old lady. She's told me before she doesn't want to get bothered. I've spoken to her, but she told me she's not doesn't want to get bothered. But she was quite happy to tell me, her bit of the Evil Dead history. She's perfectly happy for people to go and visit the cabin site as long as they don't take stones away, which I did, and most of the people would. But equally, I know that at some point there's houses on either side of the cabin site, further down the hill, further up the hill, and I'm sure at some point we'll read in the news or read on an Evil Dead website, the cabin site's been bulldozed and they're building flats there or houses there. Then everyone will curse the fact that they didn't take a cabin stone when they could. So I absolutely don't blame anyone for doing that. So yeah, so the person that owns the cabin site now wasn't the person that owned it back then. The person that owned it back then was a guy who ran a garage in the town, or did, or does. He's passed away now, but he did at the time. And he had this cabin that they used as a hunting cabin. Now, there's how I mentioned there's houses around about it now. There wasn't at the time; it was just forest. So this guy and his brother used it as a hunting cabin, and at the time it was just the front bit of the cabin that you see in the film. There wasn't the back bit with the rooms in it, the bedrooms. It was just the big main living room, which was split into two sections. And so when the Evil Dead production took over the cabin, they were told they just had to leave it as it was originally, which wasn't hard because it was quite a mess. But they built the back of this cabin on, and it became quite big news that this film was being filmed in the town that people were in. It was a small town in Tennessee, and having a film made in your town was quite a big thing. So people would go up to the cabin and visit it, not knowing, not even having seen the film, but they just wanted to say, wow, big Hollywood film's been made in their town. So things got, after the production left, things got stolen from the cabin. The guy made a stained glass window, which was it was taken out, but it was put back into the cabin for film after filming. That got stolen. The porch swing that was there, that got stolen. And the story was told that people visiting just like lit a fire in the center of the cabin room, main cabin room, and eventually the cabin got burned down. But I was told that the owner of the cabin burnt it down himself in about 1982 because he didn't want people visiting the site. He used to use the area for hunting. People on his land meant he couldn't do hunting anymore because what if he shot someone? Equally, he had bear traps. I don't know if they were for trapping bears, but he had bear traps dotted around the property, and he didn't want someone to get hurt and sue him. So he thought, right, we'll have to burn the cabin down. The cabin's not there. People will forget about it, and there you go. Really didn't work because people are still visiting it today. But that was why the cabin got burned down, in the hopes to sort of move on and so that he could reclaim his property as what he used to use it for, and he never could. And in the end, he sold the property, and I think it changed hands once, and then again to the person that now owns it. And again, she doesn't use the land for anything, but obviously she's getting old, and at some point she'll pass away. The land will pass to someone else who might decide to sell it, so it might not be there forever. And obviously people keep on taking chimney stones, which again I don't begrudge because I did the same thing. So the last bit of the cabin is the chimney, and that's going to be gone at some point. And then all you've got left is some corrugated iron roofing that's on the ground, and again that's very rusty. That's rusting away, and that will be gone at some point as well. So it's quite sad. But there you go. That's just in the video here. There's two big trees that stood in front of the cabin, and this you can see I'm panning across now. One of the trees had got blown over in a storm. I was told when that was. I think it's on the page there, but so it had blown down. So there was only the second tree, which is on the right as you walk out of the cabin, that was still there. The one on the left had fallen over.
Wow. And yeah, it's very cool, but it's even really sad. Let's say what are the remains, and I suppose you choose the right timing because as you said, people continue to take the chimney stones. So I suppose that maybe that today I don't know. I never seen a more recent. I have not seen recent picture of the site recently, so I don't know
If
what
you
is.
go onto the locations page of Evil Dead 1 on my Book of the Dead website, I think there's a photo from possibly 2021, but it is still there, but it's shorter. Just to jump back, someone might have seen there's a hole across the way from where the chimney is, and a lot of people assume that's the trapdoor hole, and it wasn't. It was I got a story from someone, again it's on the Evil Dead 1 page, locations page, that they dug in the area to try and find the trapdoor. So the hole that's there is from someone digging rather than the trapdoor, and it's debatable of whether they dug in the right place. So the trapdoor might have been further over, further left, right. So when someone visits the site and thinks, "Oh, this is where the trapdoor is," it's not. It's where someone dug a hole to try and find the trapdoor.
Okay, understood. Cool. Okay, so this is the video related to the cabin site, but as you said, you visited even, for example, the broken bridge. I'm going to share even that because it's even I mean it's really destroyed. I mean, it's like the demons passed there, right, for real. Just a moment, I'm going to share it. Here it is.
Yeah, so I'm standing on the current highway bridge, and you can just see that single strut there in the middle of the river. Um, the bridge would have been complete when the production started, and the production were allowed to dismantle the bridge. So they would have filmed on the bridge, filmed the car crossing the bridge and what have you, going back and forth, people walking on the bridge, what have you. Then they destroyed the bridge, so there was only one bridge. When they'd left, the bridge was basically gone.
Okay, so it's gone just when they were filming, substantially. I
Yeah,
mean,
they took it apart. So when you see in the film, it's like gnarled up like a hand. That would have been chopped off when they'd left to leave it in a safe, a safe way. But basically, the bridge would have been gone by the time the production had finished. They were able to use this bridge as a bridge that they could take apart.
and it was a real bridge, right? I mean, it was a real bridge that
Originally, it was a real bridge. There's I don't know whether you'll see it, but there's a house on the opposite side, a white house, and then going back behind me where I'm filming now is just sort of farmland. Yeah, see, I think on the behind those trees there's a White House, but it isn't a busy area, so it wouldn't have been a major bridge that would have led to anything. But there is the highway bridge, it's about 500 yards further up the river, further down the river there.
That's really cool. I mean, so practically we just see the bridge in the movies, and then no more of it. Practically everything that's related to the Evil Dead is almost destroyed in some way or another.
Although you can't really make it out, what I'm filming is obviously as the car drives onto the bridge, as it's driving across the bridge, and then there's a shot from the side as it drives through the shot and onto what would have been the driveway to the cabin, but you can't really see that too well because it's quite overgrown.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously there's no bridge there to film either, so I can just sort of film river and what have you, but really there's nothing really there to film.
Yeah, absolutely. And okay, then you even visited, as I can see, the location in which you can see the car of Ash and the others going to the cabin, and there are two different places, right? One is Clinch River Road, and the other one is the Fisherman Road. I mean, they are two separate places. How much they are far from one from each other?
They are a distance. They are a car drive away. When I was filming on so on that link that you've given to people, you can see the full 3 hours and 40 minutes of footage on a YouTube video. It's just a bit down from the top. You can see the whole thing. And so that's all the unedited footage. So what you've been playing there is the edited footage where I take out where I put the camera down or where I get into a new position. So you've just got panning shot, panning shot, panning shot. And it's just something people can watch, but you can watch the whole unedited footage. And I was filming on Clinch River Road, up and down, and this woman, I was probably like 200 or 300 yards up the road, and this woman came out, I didn't see from where, and slowly walked down towards me and started talking to me. And I didn't know this, but there was a bar on the end of this road, which I didn't see. And she'd come out and having a conversation with me about Princess Diana. And I really did not want to get involved in this conversation or go back to the bar. So I sort of, all right, okay. And then she left. And then I saw when she'd gone back in, this guy started walking out and walking towards me. So that, all right, that's it for me. I packed up quickly and started driving away before this guy got to me and started asking me questions. But
Okay.
this is not that road. This is the other road.
The other road, yeah.
You can see exactly that shot there would have been where the car would have driven round.
So this one, maybe just a moment. Just a moment. I have the link. This one. Okay. This one, right?
Yeah. So that shot there. So where you see the car, driving past the two fishermen, which are Rob Tabbert and Sam Raimi, and it beeps. Just next to the telegraph pole, the opposite side of the telegraph pole is where they're standing. So on the opposite side of the road to what you can see there is where they're standing, where the car drive past. And it's only for that one or two shots in the film that you can see. But yeah, that's where it was.
That's cool. And so you have this bad experience, but you were completely safe at the end.
Yes. Yeah. Well, when I'd finished the trip, I drove the car back to the hire place, but I had to fill it up first. So I drove to a gas station, which was, you know, a mile away from the car rental place, whatever it was. And there was this, if I say like someone who looked at like a prostitute, walking around asking people for money, and obviously she knew who the tourists were because they had to fill up their cars and take them back to the car rental place. This was the place near the car rental place, so she'd walk around and ask people for money. And that I didn't like that.
Well, I can fully understand. In fact, this video is even the shorter one you took, right? is I see correctly. So this is the other way, the other part. Indeed, just a moment. It's arriving. Okay. This is the other part, right?
Yeah. So that's further on from in the film than the Fisherman Road. So you'd see exactly that shot there, the car coming round the corner. I think it's just that one shot. Oh, and also here is where you would see the Lazyberry tow truck driving towards them. Is that shot you can see there?
How much was complex find the location? I mean, okay, the cabins it's probably more simple because you have let's say a lot of visitors, but this specific part of
there's a guy called there was a guy called Doug who contacted me I think a year or two beforehand with photos of the two roads, and I think and Fisherman Road as well, just for my site to put on Book the Dead. So I was able through him to find out exactly where they were. The cabin site is sort of fairly general knowledge as to where that is. The bridge, I don't remember where I found, whether that was online or whether it was through Doug. But there was another site that I missed at the beginning of Evil Dead 2, where the car drives through the tunnel. You see the titles and then the car comes out of the tunnel. I didn't know where that was when I went to film. I only found out where that was about 6 months after I'd come back. So if I'd known, I'd actually driven through the Smoky Mountains, and it would have been one of the tunnels, not that I'd driven through, but off on a road somewhere. I would have been able to find out had I known where it was. Fortunately, someone has been there and filmed at those locations for me now, and it's on the website, but it's not me that's done that filming.
Okay. Just a moment. Okay, fantastic. So you visited the first the location of the first movie, then you completely go elsewhere to visit the location of the second movie. How much long was the trip between
it was about,
Tennessee and Carolina, right? North Carolina.
I think it was about 5 hours drive. It was about 300 miles, I think. So I drove the second day. So the night that I got there, Evil Dead 1, cabin site, bridge, etc., back to hotel. The second morning, I went back to the cabin site again to do some more filming, and I went directly there. I think I went back to the bridge again and then drove directly to the Wilmington. And I think I went straight to the hotel, as I remember. The hotel, it was like when I say a hotel, it was like a nice bed and breakfast type place, like a nice couple that were running it. It was their really nice house, like a wooden house. And after I'd been to the Evil Dead 2 cabin site with the owners, I loaded up a suitcase full of stuff. and I carried it in past them, and they had no idea who I was, and I just had this suitcase, big suitcase full of dirt and rocks and vines. And they said, are you going to be all right with that? I said, yeah, I'm fine. And I walked upstairs. And because I was quite excited, I got all the stuff out and to have a look at it. And I put it back in the suitcase. And there's some little bits on the floor. It's not terrible. I'll just put it, and I pushed it under a rug for my shame. I did. And I put the rug, and it was all clean. And then I was at the airport flying out, and I got a really, really snotty email from them that lifted up the rug and discovered the stuff I'd put underneath the rug. And they really weren't happy. I didn't respond to them, but yes, they weren't happy about finding all that rubbish under their rug.
Fantastic. So I'm going to show some of the videos of the second part of your travel. I'm going in chronological order respect to the movies. So probably the opening title tunnel is the first I'm going to show. Just a moment, because okay. So you have even, 2012, there is already some action cameras, or you did all by yourself? Because the video we are going to show you were driving, so you have something to put in your car to keep the camera.
So this is the video of the tunnel. I didn't film this, someone else did, and it was about a couple of years after I visited, because I didn't know about this location when I visited. So this is someone else doing the filming of this, but you can show it anyway.
Okay, this one, however. Okay.
Yeah, so this is someone else doing the filming on this.
Okay. So probably it is something like an action camera, because it's hard to have this kind of stability. This is the tunnel, so of the evil of
yeah.
The Evil
So that's the tunnel. So it would start. The film would start right about here, and you would see the titles, and then slowly you drive out, and then you see the car, and you'd cut to Linda and Bruce in the car.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's cool. While let's see, just a moment. So what was the first place you visited? Because we have a lot of videos here. I have, for example, the Faison High School, where all the internal.
The first place I visited was the high school.
Okay, so I'm going to show this. Okay, so just for the one that doesn't know about it, Evil Dead 2 was filmed in an high school for the internal part, right? I mean, for the while the parts in the open were filmed close to the cabin, the internal of the cabin was filmed in the Faison High School, and Rob visited it. I'm going to share it. I have seen the videos. I have a couple of questions, but maybe when we are going to see what I'm going to relate to. No, just a moment, because as usual I don't know what to do here. Okay, here it is. Here we go. What was it easy to reach this place?
Yeah, so this is the main road is just behind me there, and it was at the time, is still a school. So the gym, which is behind it, had been disused and just filled with all sorts of rubbish. It's literally full of rubbish. So no one used the gym, but this was a current high school. I don't think it was being used when I was there, but I didn't see any kids, so I'm not sure.
Okay, so you talk about
that road up just to the there is the main road running through through the town there, so it's not hard to find at all. So this is round the back of the let's have a look here. This is around the back of this is around the back of the gym.
The gym, yes.
Yeah, so you can see it's quite disused. There's people who take drugs around the back there. So it's probably not the nicest of I wouldn't want to be there late at night, but this is This is in the day.
Yeah. And this is random rubbish. I mean, there is nothing that have to do about the movie. It's just rubbish. I
No,
mean,
I had a quick look around. There was nothing I could see. I mean, you
okay.
can see that's just rubbish that's been dumped there. I don't know whether it's from the school or I don't know, but yeah, it was literally full of rubbish.
Okay, so for anyone who's connecting now, this was the internal sets of the Evil Dead 2. It was a nice school gym, and now it's completely abandoned and full of rubbish. Maybe let me say that it is one of the less this rotten place. I mean, almost the building is still there, maybe. Respect to the other thing we are going to see.
Yeah, so inside here would have been the internal set of both the cellar and the cabin. So the cabin, I think, was built on top of the cellar, so they could have single shots going up and down between the two. So it would have been like a two-story set.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I think the interior of the work shed would have been in here as well. And I'm not sure what else off the top of my head, but yeah, that's the car of the person that was taking me around.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so this was the school, and
Mm-hmm.
what you visited then? I mean, we have some video about, we have the airport in which Shiny and Ed
The
Gateway
airport was last.
was last. Okay,
Yeah,
the cabin area then, I suppose, or the
cabin
production,
air. I think the ballast pits were next. I think.
the production house. So
No, the production house was next to the cabin, so the ballast pits would have been next.
the
I think, but
the
that's
ballast
at the
pit.
end of the film. Yeah.
The Bonsal ballast pit. Okay. What I tried to recognize the place, but I didn't get to recognize it. Just a moment.
No, because it's just like it's nothing now, but at the time it would have been just an area that trucks would have come filled up with ballast uh, for whatever, for infill, for building houses. So the area's changed an awful lot because any hills that would have been there would have been flattened out and things would have been dug out. So really, it's just filming there just because that was where Evil Dead 2 was filmed. But there's absolutely nothing you would recognize as anything in the film now.
Okay. So essentially,
Obviously, a lot of it's flooded now as well, which again, it wasn't in the film, so you wouldn't pick anything from the film out from what I'm filming here.
is this a swamp or a lake?
It would have just, I mean, they would have just removed earth, so it would have just naturally filled with water, but it's not a swamp, no. It's just,
Okay.
I suppose you call it a man-made lake, but it's just the fact that there was a big hole there and it filled up with water. I don't think anyone would have made it as a lake.
Okay. So
So when
after,
I
oh, sorry,
when
you
I
go
was when I was filming there, I just walked as far down as I could be bothered to because I couldn't film anything that looked like anything on the film. So the film I did was probably, 500 yards from the car. And then once I thought, well, I can't film anything else that anyone will recognize. So I walked as far down as I could be bothered, filmed, and I walked back up again.
Okay. And after that, you visited the cabin, or
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
So the cabin of Evil Dead 2, when you visited it, it was still there. Now is not there anymore, right? If I'm correct, it's
Nope,
completely
it's gone.
gone. It's completely gone. So as I said, you choose a right timing, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. So when you drive onto the property, I don't show this, but there's a big gate, and you go through a gate up a long driveway with trees either side to what I've called the production house, but it's actually the person that lives there, their house. And then you go through a gate, through some barns, and then round into another field. And the cabin area is in like a valley, like a little valley with trees all around it. So you can't, like Evil Dead 1, you can't walk onto the cabin Evil Dead 2 site because the person that owns the site owns the land around and they use it for cattle farming. So they have electric fences around it. So you would need to go through the gate and ask permission. Well, you wouldn't be able to, but in theory, you would need to ask permission from the person, because they had to turn. There was cattle in the 2 fields either side of the cabin site, so there was electric fences all the way around to stop the cattle going down into this valley bit and into the trees. So they had to turn off the electric fences for me to walk down here. So it's really not somewhere you could walk into yourself, realistically at all. It's on private property, behind fences, behind electric fences. So when I got here, you can see that a lot of the cabinets started to collapse. It hadn't completely collapsed, but I got a photo a couple of years later where there'd been a storm and the house had completely pancaked flat. So I can walk into the cabin and walk all the way through, whereas a couple of years later you couldn't at all. And a guy called Mike, I forget his surname, he knew the cabin owner, or got in contact with the cabin owner, knew that the cabin site was going to be cleared, because it's completely collapsed. There's nothing to look at other than bits of wood on the ground. So he went there and took away a lot of the cabin site, loaded up doors, windows, anything that they could load up. And then the rest of it was just cleared. So it's not even there now, as far as I know. Maybe even the trees have been cut down, because it was a bit of an island in between 2 bits of field. And it was, it was probably a bit irritating to have it there. They had to have fences around it to stop the cows getting down there. So it just made sense just to clear the area and make it one big area, rather than having this island in the middle for no money. You can just see one of the trees there, one of the styrofoam trees there that they made, and this is the front of the cabin there, so you can see it's collapsed quite a bit there. The veranda is mostly gone. All the struts that hold up the veranda are gone. The floorboards across the veranda are gone. So quite a bit of it is gone. People had been there before I'd been there and took bits of the cabin site away, so I already knew that some of it was missing anyway.
So this is a fake tree. I didn't know.
Yes. So you can pick bits off. It's like polystyrene. It's like a lightweight polystyrene. You can pull bits off it, but it would have been sprayed around a central tree that was there. But they just wanted some thicker trees, so they used styrofoam to make some of the trees a lot thicker.
Oh, okay. So you told at the beginning of this live that you were there like for business. Okay. My first, let's say, emotion when I seen this specific footage was a little bit of sadness about the destiny of this cabin. What was your reaction seeing this? I mean,
I think I'd seen photos of it before I went there, so I knew it wasn't in the best of states. So no, it wasn't a surprise to see it like that. Because I was so focused on getting the shots and making sure I get proper shots of this and proper shots of that, I maybe didn't enjoy it as much as I might have done if I'd not gone there and filmed at all. You can see this is the work shed here.
Yeah,
the work shed was empty inside because the set was on in the high school. But yeah, it was still nice to see it all. With Evil Dead chainsaws, I built both times. I built part of the workshed wall just to take photos and display my chainsaws on. So it was nice to actually go in and work out whether my measurements were roughly correct from what I'd roughly tried to work out from the film or the DVD as it was at the time.
Yeah, I can relate with you about this. I mean, it should be a very, very nice experience entering. It's not so big, right? The workshop. I mean, it's really small, as can I see here.
Yeah. So I as I was filming, I was literally trying to get the widest angles I could, standing with a camera right back against the wall, because if you stand in the center, it's very hard to film anything. So I would have been as far back on each shot as I could get. So it maybe makes it look a bit bigger than it is. If you can see, that doorway there is maybe 3 feet. You've got 2 feet either side, so it's maybe 7 or 8 feet wide. So it's not that big.
Yeah. And this is the cabin, right?
Yeah. So this is walking down into the cabin. So I think for the film, the exterior set was dressed somewhat so they could do shots going from the inside to the outside of the cabin, but it wasn't as dressed as the set on in the high school would have been. So there were things that would have been in the film that are in this. It's not just like an empty shell like the work shed was. So there was drawers. There was. I remember I took a screwdriver with me, just because I had various tools with me, just to see what I might need. And the door you can see on the floor there. There was a faceplate either side with a handle, and I spent about 10 minutes unscrewing these faceplates on both sides. I thought that would be a recognizable thing you'd better see from the film, and you'd see it, that I've got this thing. So I spent ages trying to unscrew these things. I put them down and I left them there. So for all I know, they're still sitting there. But I was kicking myself that I'd left these there just because I got distracted and didn't pick them up.
So you reached to remove it, but you forgot them.
I just forgot it. I loaded up as much as I could take, as much as I thought I could get away with taking. So when I went there, I had a small suitcase, and I put that inside a larger suitcase, and I put that inside a larger suitcase. So I would have two large empty suitcases, which I could stuff with stuff to bring back. Because I brought some stuff back for me. I brought some stuff back for two or three other people. So, I was just bringing back as much stuff as I could get away with. And I was afraid that either stuff would get confiscated because, maybe I'm not allowed to bring back earth or bring back, wood because of pests or what have you. And in the end, I just walked straight through the airport. It was 4 a.m. and there was nobody there. But I was quite afraid that I'd have loads of stuff. I'd get all the way back to the UK airport and have all this stuff confiscated from me.
So you had no problem at all with anything. I mean, you bring
no
everything.
problem at all. When I was walking, when I'd done my filming, I was walking back out of the front of the cabin, and I felt the one of the floorboards give way a bit under my foot, and I felt a nail just go into the bottom of my foot. And if I'd put my weight on it, it would have been quite bad, but I just felt it go in, and I was able to lift my foot off it. But no, other than that, I was also warned about rattlesnakes, not to put my hand under any of the floorboards or reach into anywhere because I could get bitten by a rattlesnake.
Ah, okay. However, how rotten is it? The rest.
I would imagine it. I mean, it wouldn't have taken much to make it, obviously, or it did fall down, but it wouldn't have taken much to make it fall down. So there, where you see that, I just nearly stood on a nail.
Ah, okay. Here, okay. And here was colder or warmer than Tennessee?
It was about the same. Now, in the film, you can see a driveway that runs out. When you stand at that cabin and look out, all you can see is trees. You can't even see a bit of a driveway. It's not like the Evil Dead cabin site where people walk up and down and keep it sort of trodden. This is literally, you wouldn't know where the driveway was because it's just trees all the way out as far as you can see. So this is me walking back out, and this is the end of this. The current owner of the cabin site is just in their vehicle at the top of the hill there. So you can see I'm walking up a hill, and on both sides, it's like a valley down to the middle. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, just a moment. Okay. Wow. So you were talking about Mike Pasquale, I suppose, before. I have seen on your site there is some more picture about, as you said.
So I haven't seen the cabin site what it looks like today. I think at some point Google Earth will update, and you'll better see if the area is completely gone or not, because the production house is there. That's someone's house. That's not going to change, and the cabin site is just would be just over a bit, and you would better see if there's a patch of trees still there or if it's literally gone. I imagine it's probably gone because it would be convenient to have it gone for the owner.
So this is a little bit before, right? No, more. Lot before. This is 1997.
So this person on the far right was the owner of the cabin during the time of Evil Dead 2, and it's the person I went to see. He was a lot older when I met him, and he's probably passed away now. But him and his wife were the owners of the cabin when Evil Dead 2 was filmed, and the guy in the middle is one of the people that found it. But you can see even there, that must have been, I don't know if I've got a date there, but probably 90s, and it's very overgrown already.
Yeah, yeah. There is still the styrofoam tree here.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's the chimney, possibly the chimney. I can't quite see there.
It is. Oh, okay. Yeah. Here maybe
Yeah,
a little bit of
possibly.
stitching.
Yeah.
And this is indeed this is the warshed.
Yeah, so you can see when I was there, it was a lot more overgrown than that. But even so, when the film was made, it was a lot clearer than that. You can see trees all around the work shed.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this is after you visited it, right? Now, this is the when you visited it, right?
Yeah,
This is
so that's my footage. Yeah.
that's your picture, and then there is a picture done later. Here it is.
Yeah. So
This is
that's
what.
the cabin that's entirely collapsed.
Yes, this is completely gone. Adieu,
Yeah.
as they say in French.
So it would be a few years later from this picture that the cabin site would be cleared. But yeah, you can no longer walk through the cabin. It's just pancake flat.
Yeah, and this is the world. This is okay. This is the remains of the cabins here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the end this is the workshop, and then they managed to do this.
Yeah, so you can see the work shed. I'm not entirely sure where it is now. I think it's the Living Dead Museum have it, because Mike sold it onto them. But you can see that, and you can see one of the windows there as well.
Yes, I remember he sold this for something like $20,000, if I'm not wrong, something like that. But yes, he sold.
He put a lot of work into it, so obviously he had to take it apart, and because he intended to tour it around conventions, he had to make a frame for it that he could take it apart and put it back together again. So while he sold it for $20,000, he put in an awful lot of work to make a frame that he could take it apart and put it back together again. So fair play to him, I think.
Yeah. It's really cool having something saved. I never seen it, but maybe someday in the future I will finish in some convention where it is showed or something like that. Then you visited. I mean, I've seen there are some other videos. The storage barn. What was intended for? What was used for?
Okay, so on the
this one, I'm going to share it. Just
on the second night in Wadesborough, sort of in the fourth night, I went with the owner of the cabin, the then owner of the cabin, who's not the owner of the cabin, to his. It wasn't a holiday home, but it was like a home out in the countryside, and there he had a barn with lots of stuff he'd saved from Evil Dead 2. So this is the water pump that you'll see outside the work shed in Evil Dead 2. Anything with a yellow tag on it was used in Evil Dead 2. So that's some of the coal from the hillside of Linda's grave.
So, okay, this is not a location of the movie, but there is a lot of stuff that was used in the movie.
That Fairview, Tennessee was the sign that was hung for the airport scene.
Mm-hmm.
That was a chipper that was used in the film, but not used for the film. That was a bike that was in the cellar.
Uh-huh. So a lot of screen used props, as we call them.
Yeah.
Right? Cool. Really cool.
Yeah.
And then
so there's some things that were actually used in the film and some that were used for the film. Like there's a table saw there that was used while the film was being made, but it's not in the film. So anything with a yellow tag on that in that video would have been used in or on the film.
Okay. And then you visited the airport, right? That is an actual airport, I suppose.
Yeah.
Just a moment. I need to share it. Uh, 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 uh. No. Okay. Here it is.
Yeah. So this is like an airport for like small planes. So obviously in the film, this would have been in complete darkness, but you get to see the big hangar there as they get out. This this was 10 years after 9/11, so I did walk in and ask, it's not all right, all right for me to film here. I'm not going to get in trouble or anything, and they didn't seem bothered at all.
Hmm. Yeah, I can understand this. So it's a small airport, and they feel the here was filmed the scene in which Annie and Ed Gately arrive.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
Right.
this was the last place I filmed because it was a ways out of Wadesborough. Um,
Mhm.
so I filmed there, and then I think that's my hire car there, and then I drove straight to the airport or to the car rental place in the airport.
Cool, cool, really cool. And well, I would like to ask you if you plan to come back there, but I suppose there is nothing more remaining here. I mean, there is no cabin, there is no,
I
there is
did
no
plan.
chimney.
Well, yes and no. I did plan to do a second trip uh, because you've got the locations in Tennessee and North Carolina, which are relatively close together. Relatively close together, you can sort of tour around each location and then drive between them, and it's not a huge ask to go between the two. Whereas if you want to visit locations in Detroit, in Michigan, that's a huge distance away. So I plan to possibly go back and do a second trip. But the main locations I wanted to get, I was never able to get, which is the house where Within the Woods was filmed. And
Okay. The the
I
the
won't
the,
go.
the
Yeah,
house by Robert Tapper, right? Robert Tapper house.
yeah, who doesn't own it now, but I won't go into that situation. But I wasn't able to get that location, and that was the main one I wanted to get. I knew a number of other locations, like the beginning of the Evil Dead, where the camera goes through the swamp. I knew where that was. Um, I forget. There was a couple of others, but really, if I didn't have the Within the Woods house, I didn't really have much of a trip. So I just never did it. And also it would have been nice to get the tunnel from the beginning of Evil Dead 2,
Mm-hmm.
but spending another thousand pounds to go back over there to film just that bit. That bit is also high up in the Smoky Mountains. So a couple of years, obviously, I've got footage on there that's been filmed. About a year or so before that, someone else got in contact with me, and I asked them to do some filming. They went up there, and the whole place was snowed in, and they had to come back again. So the same thing could have happened to me because it's quite, as I say, it's quite high up in the mountains.
And what about the location of Army of Darkness? Are you curious to visit those or not precisely?
No, I mean that's in California, and a lot of those locations are sort of well known. Uh, well-known locations like from Batman, the original Batman series, or Star Trek, the slanting rocks in the background. Yeah, so it's an Army of Darkness of the three films is not my favorite. So Evil Dead 1 is my favorite. Evil Dead 2 is nearly there, and then Evil Dead 3 is Army of Darkness is less so. So it was more important to me specifically to get Evil Dead 1 cabin is the one I wanted most, and Evil Dead 2 because the cabin is still there.
Yeah.
It's nearly collapsed, but it was still there. It was something I could visit. So they were the two big ones I wanted to get. An Army of Darkness, there's not really anything to visit. There's no castle set. There's no, Vasquez Rocks is about the only thing you can look at on screen and say that was in the film. But the rest of it, you would struggle to know where any of it is
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's not as descriptive.
Yeah, because yeah, Castle Kandar was destroyed, right? If I remember correctly,
Yeah,
it was used a little bit for some commercial maybe, and then destroyed.
yeah,
And the cave, if I'm not wrong, is a cave used for even for Batman, right? The old
yeah.
Batman.
The original Batman series. Yeah,
So yes, as you said, they are well known place. Mike is telling maybe perhaps we should go all together one day. It could be an idea. I
I
mean,
think I spent, I think it was about £1,400 to
fourteen
get there, and
hundred,
that was a not
fourteen hundred.
£1,400. So
Okay.
yeah, that was euros is more or less the same. So that's quite a lot of money to go and do filming, or
Yeah.
to to just visit the area. But
You never know. You never know, right?
yeah. Well, as each year passes, the locations, especially the cabin locations, one's gone completely. The ballast pits doesn't look anything like it used to. The original cabin site is going. That will be gone at some point. So as we all get older, things will just gradually be gone until there's nothing left to visit.
Yes, Mike suggests to start saving money. And yes, and another nice trip maybe that could be interesting. I have interviewed Nick Bassett. Nick Bassett was the production designer both for Ash vs Evil Dead and Evil Dead Rise, and he told me that between the first and the second season of Ash vs Evil Dead, he got to visit Detroit because he would
Mhm.
like to capture, the Michigan style to use it in the city scenario because they have Elk Grove, so he would like to capture that kind of. And I never seen the Redford Theater. I don't know if it is still there, right? I mean, the Redford Theater, the one in which the Book of the Dead was premiered.
I don't know. I mean, so many theaters closed down now. It might well be, or it might be something else. But you mentioned Ash vs Evil Dead. When they first contacted me, uh, I don't think I knew about the about the TV show at all. So as they went through, they were telling me various things. Or we've looked at this, and I was very excited to see what they were going to do. Not so much with the TV show because I knew it was a continuation of Army of Darkness, and Army of Darkness is going into sort of slapstick territory, and it wasn't my favorite. But so I knew the TV show would be more a continuation of that than the original Evil Dead.
Hmm.
But I was still excited to see what they'd do with the cabin, whether they'd have the props, whether they'd have, how the set pieces would be, whether they'd try and get some of the same actors in. And it was nice to see, but then series 2 and 3 tailed off in a different direction, and I was sort of kind of less interested there. But it was still exciting to see. They've rebuilt the cabin. It looks like Evil Dead 2. It was quite exciting to see that, and the work sheds, and um, just so I was quite excited to see that, even though I wasn't as
Yes,
as big a fan as the TV show.
I was searching for because Nick Bassett posted something from the cabin itself. Just a moment, if I found it, but I don't suppose I'm finding it.
If you look on the Ash versus Evil Dead section of Book of the Dead, I
Uh
think
huh.
there's a page about the cabin, possibly.
Feature. Actual Evil Dead. Just a moment. Recreated set. Here it is. Okay. Here it is. Okay. Just a moment. I'm going to share it. Yes, this is the schemas of the cabin itself. Very cool.
Yeah, I
Well,
got those from Nick Bassett. I can't remember if that was through you or not. I think.
I don't know who got this. No,
Uh,
it was not me. Probably. It's very interesting.
uh,
However. Oh, cool. If you would like to, did you use this for replicate the cabin in your diorama, or you
oh
use
no, I got this. The short film was made before I got this. I only got this like 2019, 18. It was after the third season of Evil Dead, Ash vs Evil Dead, as I remember, because that was the only way he was happy to share it, because it had all finished.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting here. A lot of stuff. Okay, this is the recreated set. Obviously, I asked to Nick Bassett what was the end of this set, and obviously, as usual, it was destroyed. So this set have the same exact share the same exact destiny, but in a different way from with the original ones. I don't know
Well,
why they.
unfortunately, I mean, I would imagine that would be probably on a set, so on a soundstage somewhere. So you would have to get rid of it to do the next film. A lot of times, when you have a first, second, and third series, they'll have the set so they can take it apart, put it into storage. But after the third series is finished, you're paying for the storage for something you're not going to use. It just doesn't make sense to keep it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it just ends up getting trashed.
Yeah, but in terms of economical, let's say your reasoning is fine. I was thinking about having some kind of thematic park or stuff like that. It should be nice, but I think we never had something like this. Even if with all this plan, one can build a cabin exactly like the one from the movies. So
Mhm.
so it's very nice. Okay. Before leaving you, because I left out one of your project that I would like to share with the audience. That is Super 8. Oh man, I don't remember the title. Just a moment.
Super8shorts.com.
Yes, just a moment. I'm going to. Uh, yeah, super8shorts.com. This one.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, 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 uh. So, can you talk a little bit about this project? How it comes out?
Yeah.
Uh,
So I was contacted by a guy called Bill Ward, who's one of the people that worked on the shorts. He was friends with Scott Spiegel, and well, just to rewind a bit, years before that, Josh Becker was selling his shorts through his website on DVD, and he did it for 4, 5, 6 years, and then he just stopped. Then I was contacted by Bill Ward, who I was going to interview, and I think there's an interview with him on BookOfTheDead.ws. But he also said, I've got some of the shorts, they're on VHS. So I wanted to try and get screenshots from the shorts to put on my website, and back and forth and back and forth. And he got in contact with Scott, who has all of the shorts from everyone, Sam Raimi, everyone, on DVD. They were transferred from Super 8 to Betacam onto DVD probably 15 years ago. So Scott Spiegel has Within the Woods, everything they've done, Happy Valley Kid. But Scott Spiegel was only ever happy to share what he had the copyright to.
yeah,
So I could include stuff that was Bill Ward directed. Really, when I say the copyright, I mean who directed what short. So he couldn't share the shorts that Sam Raimi directed without his permission. So I got in contact with Josh Becker and said, "Can I lump your shorts in with this project?" So then I had all of Josh's shorts, all of Scott Spiegel's shorts, and all of Bill Ward's shorts. And I contacted Sam Raimi about getting his shorts, because he's done the shorts that people will know most, like It's Murder, Within the Woods, Happy Valley Kid. And I emailed his assistant, and I got a text from his assistant saying, Sam Raimi wants to speak to you. Have you got time for a phone call? So I obviously emailed back, said, yes, fine. So I had a phone conversation with Sam Raimi, who explained that because he's a current director, he's a director that makes films today, not like Bill Ward or Josh Becker, who isn't a professional filmmaker today. He can't release stuff that's got copyrighted music in it. So like in Within the Woods or any of the shorts, they've got background music taken from other things, and skits that are obviously ripped off from Three Stooges or popular adverts and things like that. So he felt he couldn't release any of those while he's a current working director, because that would lead into problems with copyright, and that if he's releasing, certain music from a short, then he can't then argue that other people can't pirate his stuff. It just makes things difficult. So why would he? So at least for the moment, until Sam Raimi retires, I can't release anything else, which is Bruce Campbell's short um Sam Raimi's short.
Sure. Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, Within the Woods has got another issue, a legal issue that prevented it having a professional release. But because I'm not a professional, maybe that might not be an issue. I don't know. But at the moment, while Sam Raimi is still making films, and he is making big films, I haven't got access to any of that stuff.
That's cool. That was a really nice project. I have all of these Super 8 shorts, and they are a lot of them are really funny, and you did a very astounding work. I mean, I suppose it was very fun find all this material to put it to create even the packaging, right?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to do something, because at the end game was always to release Within the Woods. That was what I had my eye on, and I knew I'd needed to make a really good job of it so that I could say to Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi, look at this is what I've done, can I release your shorts? And I thought, if it's just a sort of half-hearted slap them on a DVD and sell them, they're going to lose interest and not be bothered. But if I make a real lot of effort about it and show them something that looks really good, maybe they'll be more interested. And they were interested. There were just other logistical issues that prevented them from releasing what ordinarily they might just say, oh, well, yeah, that's fine, you can have them.
Yeah, it fully makes sense. It fully makes sense. Wow. You have so many things to tell. I mean, as I said in the beginning of the live, you did an astounding work with Book of the Dead.ws. I mean, you got all these people to get interviewed. I know that interviewing people is pretty complex. Nowadays, maybe sometimes it's simple because you can, let's say, get them by social networks. But back in the days when you started, it was not so simple. I mean, you have to search a lot. I mean, I suppose your experience was a lot of trial and error, I suppose, no?
Yeah, so the first interview I did was in 2009, and that was with you can tell me who it is, the blacksmith in Army of Darkness, Tim Quill. Sorry,
Tim Quill, yes.
And I don't remember how I got in contact with him, but that was the first person I interviewed, and I did it by phone, and I recorded it, and the only way I knew how, and the quality of the recording was terrible. I could hear me, and I could only just hear him, and it was really crackly. So I had to try and transcribe this interview when I couldn't hear a lot of what he was saying. And obviously, knowing that had happened, I then upgraded my equipment to make sure that didn't happen again. Because if you do an interview with someone and you realize you can't hear half of what they've said, you can't go back to them and say, by the way, could we do the interview again? Because they didn't record it properly. So so that was the first interview I did. The main people I haven't got interviews with was Sam Raimi, and I have asked him a couple of times to get an interview, and I never really got anywhere. That was the main interview I wanted to get, but I think I've got Bruce Campbell, I've got Rob Tappert, Scott Spiegel. So I've got most of the other people.
Or by mail too? All by phone?
What was that, sorry?
All the interviews are got by phone or by mail or?
So anything that's by phone, I think, is on the website now. So if you click on the interview, if you can play back the recording, it was by phone. So Rob Tappert was email, Bruce Campbell was email, Scott Spiegel was on the phone, and that was quite a long interview. You can listen to that. Danny Hicks, who's passed away, that was by phone.
Yes, the one with the sound here, right?
Yeah, so anything you click on there and you can see a sound file. I think every single one, possibly apart from Tim Quill, because it's so awful, is by phone, and everything else is by email.
Yes, you interviewed a lot of people.
Yeah,
Some of them
so I think.
is very is they are some of them nowadays they are very hard to
Oh,
get.
sorry. So as you look at the screen there, say like Scott Spiegel, next to his name there, you've got a little speaker symbol
Yes,
that denotes it was a phone interview, and you can hear the phone interview. So any of them, Bart Pierce, Ted Ramey, Shannon Shea, Mark Shostrom,
yeah,
Scott
yeah, yeah.
Spiegel, all of those you could
Mark
hear the
Pierce, yeah,
interviews.
yes, yes. A lot of you interviewed a lot of people, indeed. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And yes, it is an astounding job.
Hmm.
Of these ones, probably I have the opportunity to talk with Denix, with Graham Humphreys, with Don, with Betsy Becker, but the other some of them I talk with them by mail, but very brief ones. Think Hill, I'm sad because we talked sometimes by Facebook before he passed away, and he told me something like, "Okay, I give you an interview," but he was always busy, and then I never got one. I know that nowadays, if I'm not wrong, Mark Shostrom, since he did a lot of interview, I think he didn't do no more interview for free at the moment.
Yeah.
Yes, cafe.
Hmm.
That is right because anyone write to
I,
him
I
asking.
I did read that. He never did that with me, but that was probably 10 years ago. I can
Yeah,
appreciate if you work in a film and then you just get interviewed about the same old film and you are giving interview after interview to magazines that are taking your interview and then using it to sell their magazines. I can appreciate maybe you don't fancy giving free interviews.
yes, it makes sense. I mean, people ask. I think doing an interview is even complex because you know you won't like to ask all the same stuff everyone asks, no? And so
Well,
you,
I do really try and avoid the simple questions because people already know the answers before they've read the answers from whoever it is. Um, and also avoid questions like Evil Dead, what was that like? Because that's not even a question. But
yeah,
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 there's lots of these same anecdotes that crop up again and again on commentaries and in books, and I try and avoid those because you're just wasting a bit of the interview rehashing something that people already know. So
yeah, yeah.
a long time ago, I wrote a long list of questions that I wanted to get people to ask, and like I had a list of questions about Evil Dead 2 special effects, and I knew I wanted to do some to Robert Berger, some to Gregory Nicotero, and then Howard Berger, and I just allocated them up. So I've got questions now that I've still never got answers to because I wanted to save them for the right people to ask them. But yeah,
Yeah. However, great job here. I'm going to meet Alderich in a few days because he's coming back in Europe, in Germany. So
all
it's the
right, okay.
first at Weekend of Hell. It's the first time I'm going to meet him because I have already met the three ladies, but never met Alderich.
I think
And
that was a email interview, as I remember.
yeah, because there is no sound.
Yeah,
Yes, number of emails is you say here. Yes, yes. So you interview in my mail. Yes, cool.
but I can give you a quick tour of the locations bits I've got behind you if you're interested.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Okay. You have to give me a minute.
Mm-hmm. We are waiting to for Rob to come back because probably he's going to move his phone and show us things from his home while moving with the phone. So just here he is. He's coming back. Just a moment. Here we are. Here we are. Here we are. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, here we are.
Okay, so I can see what I'm filming now. So this is my locations thing I built after I went to the locations area. So these are bits from the Evil Dead 2 cabin. This is a bit of firewood from the outside of the back door. That's a bit of window frame. That's a bit of a drawer. Uh, that's a bit from the side of the work shed. That's a
Mm-hmm.
bit of window frame. Yeah, that's a bit of door. There are bits of walls, and that's another bit of door. What you can see behind here is roofing from Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
This is from Evil Dead 1. That's a Kandarian dagger I made. That's earth from Evil Dead 1 cabin site. That's sticks from Evil Dead 1 cabin site. More earth. Um, you got gravel. That was a bottle I found a ways from the cabin site, but uh, chimney stones. I've got two of those.
They are huge. They are huge.
They are huge, and that's some road surface from next to the destroyed bridge. They're bits of bricks from the cliffside where the car drives around. This is the styrofoam tree you were asking
Three.
about. It's just
Yeah.
lightweight stuff. And these are uh, leaves from the cabin area as well. And the rest, and there's some vines from the cabin area as well. So I made this just after I came back and to display all my stuff.
It's a sort of sanctuary, isn't it?
Yes, it's like a display case because I wanted to keep everything safe. I mean, some of the stuff does look like it's got woodworm, but it's not getting too bad. I mean, you can see that's getting quite bad here, but hopefully that won't get too much worse.
Uh-huh. They are conserving well substantially. I mean, you have to put some material on that, or you put they you got them. I mean, some
Well,
kind
the
of.
I don't know if you can see this over a number of couple of years, I was finding little bits of powder down here, and I just thought it was disintegrating, but I think there was something living in it and eating it because you can see it's now riddled with holes. So eventually I dunked the whole thing in weed killer, in pest killer,
Yeah.
and I've got no more holes appearing and no more little bits of powder down here. So whatever ever is inside must have gotten killed. But yes, it's slowly eating away at my yeah,
This one
eating away
you
at my
did this
thing.
you did this one is not the screen user, right? You did this
Oh
one.
no, I made that a couple of years ago. Um,
This is the cabin.
this that's the cabin from the trailer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's in the version that you showed, but this is the cabin.
That's really cool.
That
The mini cabin right there. Yes, I remember something about this. Wow, is a 3D, right? 3D printed, something like that.
yes, 3D printed.
Are you going to paint it, or you are leaving it?
It would be very hard to paint it in a way that it would look any good because it's so small. So I just thought I'd rather leave it as it is. Um, you got my cabin projector,
Yeah,
my light chainsaw. That's Jesper's Book of the Dead cover.
yeah,
That's the original Evil Dead 2 T-shirt and baseball cap, and this is the various badges I've got, and that's the crew mug.
wow, a lot of stuff here. Yes, the
I
chainsaw.
mentioned about building the workshed wall, and this is a bit of it. I had to chop it down to get it in my room, but there are two Evil Dead chainsaws there. What else is there? These are
Glass necklace. Yes.
necklaces. That's my Army of Darkness gauntlet,
Yeah, it was a long war,
and the
wasn't
rest.
it? The gauntlet.
Yes,
Is it wearable or just for displaying?
It is, but it's a lot of faff to do it, so I wouldn't do it if I could help it. And that's where I keep all of the magazines and what have you I've got for Book of the Dead, all the scans I've done.
So this is the real Book of the Dead
Yeah.
WS in physical form. Let's say we
Yes,
just
so every magazine that's scanned for the website, you can see pretty much there, and all the programs and all the adverts and everything, they're all there.
So we just need to summon you with some page of the book to see you with all the stuff physically.
Right, I'll come back to you now.
Yeah. Wow, what a collection! I
Right.
remember you even realized the clock, right? The
The what?
pendulum.
Sorry.
You realized
Oh
even the
yes,
pendulum
that's
is downstairs,
downstairs.
and
It still works, but it's
it
downstairs.
works.
Yeah. Yes.
It was a very cool job.
Yes. When I made it, I did look at putting a proper clock mechanism in there.
Yes, Michael is telling that this is an amazing collection.
Yes. I remember Mike coming over and ruining his DAT tape. I'm still very sorry about that, Mike. Yeah, the clock, when I made it, I did look at putting a real clock mechanism in there. But it's really quite loud. Even when it ticks, it's quite loud, and then it chimes as well. So I end up getting a silent mechanism, like a pendulum mechanism that's just entirely silent. So it doesn't make any noise at all, but the hands go around and the pendulum goes back and forth, and it looks quite good.
Wow. Okay. Well, we talked a lot. I'm happy to add you here. Don't disconnect as soon. I'm going to close the live. And before closing the live, I would like to thank you again for your participation, because you bring a lot of very interesting content, and you did and you are still doing an astounding work for the whole community. I mean, for the whole Evil Dead fans community, because your website is a sort of Bible for all the fans. And I mean, maybe no one knows you
I just tried to
by
make I just tried to make a website that I would think was good. So the stuff that I would like to see on there, and you can really never have too much detail. People can lose interest, but you can't have too much detail. You need the thing, and then the extra thing, and the extra thing. And if people get bored, they can get bored. But I'd rather have too much detail and too many things on there than not enough. And that's, I just try and make the best website I can and what I would like to see.
And you I mean, you got it. I mean, you nailed it. As a it was a very nice, it is a nice job, a very cool website. And Mike is telling that he hopes to catch up with us in the near future. I think the last time we met was some kind of screening of the whole trilogy. I think there is another one in September, but probably I cannot afford to
all night.
Yes, the full 5 movies. Yes, but I cannot be there because I'm already organizing for Germany, and then in November probably I will be in Manchester, just with Mike and some other friends. There is another horror con with some guys from the Evil Dead franchise. In this case, Ashes, Evil Dead, and Evil Dead Rise. So probably I'm going to come back in UK, but not in London, in Manchester. And as I said, thank you for being here. Don't disconnect after I'm closing the live. I thank you everyone that has followed the live, and I hope to bring other very interesting content like the one we had tonight with Rob. And thank you very much, and have a nice night. Bye bye.